Okay.
And I thought that was going to be more impressive. But that's
Oh, okay. So that's what this is. Very good. Okay. Great. Super. And we're streamed tonight?
We're streamed. Hello, Miss Brenda. How are you? I'm going to turn the volume up here, I hope. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Bill. How are you? Good.
Yeah, that's okay. Try to say hello to me again, please.
Yes, this is me.
Good.
Yep. Okay, so Bill and I are going to have the meeting today. No.
Oh, here we go. I got
Where the heck
Okay,
is the
now
rest of
the
our
right
group?
one.
The way you said we haven't done anything for
Hello?
I'm here.
Great, thank you. That's much better.
Yeah.
You shouldn't say they've been unfolding the foundation.
Okay.
Am I gonna need more chairs?
That's my opinion.
I think I am gonna need more chairs.
Where are they at?
In the break room.
Break room would be.
Oh,
Hey, Vicki.
Chairs out of the break. More chairs out of the break room. We'll just have to.
I'm going to explain that. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Vicki,
Yes.
I'm going to hang up and try you on my cell phone. This is my room phone. I'm going to try you on my cell phone, maybe, because I think it'll save me some time.
all right.
Okay, I'll call right back.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, there's 3.
Yeah. Really nice to have a shirt. So do you have any team news?
Oh my God. Do you know what
Or is it just for you? I forgot to shave. Yeah, that's. You look like you're kind of.
she's one of
I
my
decided just to where you work.
I don't know, she works. Huh? No, she lived here, right? Oh, my house. Okay, we're missing Ed Moser, president. Oh, they are?
Okay, here I am again. Can you hear me?
You betcha. Coming through loud and clear.
Perfect. Good. Okay, this is better.
Okay, the crowd is gathering. We have quite a few people here, and we're getting some more chairs, and so we'll be,
Oh, wonderful.
and we're live streaming tonight.
I wonder why it's such a popular music tonight.
Discovery Center report. There are some folks here who support that program.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hey, how are you?
Did I not get a computer because I didn't RSVP?
Oh no, I did because I thought you wanted to.
I'm gonna get a control breakfast at 6:30. Yes, I will. Is that recognition district is here?
Right here.
Yeah. Trustees. Yeah. Why are we so
Very good.
This is really opening particular on came for dinner.
Oh, no.
Okay, you push back.
So, sorry.
You mean you're normal? Vicky, is Joe? Did Joe go somewhere? Oh, here he is, right here.
Oh, my shopping bag.
Okay, since we have so many people, I am going to use this. I call to order Laramie County Community College Board of Trustees business meeting, Wednesday, March 21st. First item on our agenda, actually, second item, what?
They're gonna read from this.
Oh, okay. Second item on our agenda, the minutes. People have had an opportunity to read the minutes, peruse the minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
are we talking February 15th?
Talking February 15, 2012.
There, one correction.
Okay?
On reports to the board, item number 4, I believe that should read polling, not pooling. I didn't know if we were pooling our resources or polling. It's
Where
polling
is it?
faculty. It's under,
Okay, I heard pooling, but if you wanted to say polling, that would be just fine, I'll correct.
How
I
about
think it's-
pooling slash polling?
it's Kevin's comment, but I thought it was polling.
No, I think I said pooling all of the faculty and giving awards to them as a pool makes it possible to make sure everyone has an equal opportunity to
In
receive
context.
Very
awards.
good.
In the present scheme, we have some groups that are maybe only 8 faculty with 1 award for them, and other places where there's like 24 and 1 award for them.
I'm glad you
So
put me back
pooling.
in context.
I'm glad you
I'm
brought it
into
up.
it.
It gave me a chance to talk.
Okay, any
Those
other
I like to
items?
hear.
Ed, thank you for pointing that out and clarifying. Any other comments? Okay, if there are none, I will take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hi.
Oh, thanks, Brenda. I'm sorry I didn't say hello to you. How are you, Brenda?
Hi, Greg. I'm
Hi.
good in beautiful Jackson. It's gorgeous here.
Oh,
Okay,
unfair.
I don't really want to hear that anymore. Okay, we've got some reports to the board. We'll just start right at the top. We've got Associated Student Government. Alex, do you have something to say?
You do.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. We had a team building retreat at the end of the month last month. It went really well. We have applications out for student government that are due next Friday. And we have all of our spots, everybody is to rerun if they're going to be back next year. So we are re-electing a whole new Senate. I will be representing the student voice on the healthcare committee planning. We're working with a bunch of different people on finding a healthcare plan that we can initiate pretty quickly with a bunch of other constituents. We were approached a few weeks ago by Faculty Senate, and we've talked with them, and they've come to talk to us about holding commencement faculty excellence awards at commencement. And after a long weeks of deliberation, the students by majority vote decided to pull those from the ceremony. Commencement will stand as is this year. We're going to think of alternative venues for holding an appropriate ceremony to appreciate the faculty. So we're open to any ideas. This won't be effective until next year, and that was just the final vote, so we're still open to anything and figuring out where to go from there. Our diversity committee held a diversity day today, a day of diversity. It was a really good success. There's definitely room for improvement and involving other constituent groups on campus into this. Our food service committee is finalizing survey responses that they've improved dining hall services listed as sales. Our service committee is working on changes for the lounge and an Ask the Senator Day. Basically an open forum for everybody to come and ask any questions or bring up any changes that they would like to see on campus. And they are also working on an Earth Day event for ASG and with other clubs on campus as well. And all of our committees are working on community service projects. Our college council representatives, Misty Heil and Jason Larimore, are working on open forums for the students for getting the word out about shared governance and letting people know what it is about. Blake Soul serves on our scholarship committee, and they're currently looking over the draft of the institutional scholarships and reviewing definitions. And we are, this is for you here, we're waiting on a response from Governor Matt Mead about the commencement ceremony. Until then, we're brainstorming a plan B, just in case he doesn't speak at our commencement ceremony. And our last thing is that we have voted to change our name to Student Government Association effective next academic year. Is there any questions?
Okay, any questions? Do you have time to go to class? Because you're busy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, number 2, College Council. Jody Weshner. I know was here.
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. I have a very, very short report tonight, which I know you will always appreciate. And the primary reason that my report is going to be so short is that I don't have anything to tell you yet. The survey that was open to campus employees closed today due to an absence of a couple of people in institutional research for the rest of this week. We are likely not going to have the results of the survey until next Tuesday or Wednesday. College Council has decided that we will meet once we have the results, probably a week from this Friday, to start taking a look at the results from the campus survey that went out to employees of the campus. The student survey was launched today. They're going to leave the student survey open until the end of the month, and so we will be able to follow up with information from the students on shared governance. And I know there's several of you on the board that are interested in hearing the updates on this. So if you prefer, I know that we do not typically give formal reports at study sessions, but I will be happy to give you an update at the April study session if you would so like.
I would be happy to have you give us an update.
All right.
Okay.
Other than that, pretty much all we're working on in council right now is shared governance, looking at, waiting to look at the results of the survey to begin working on a discussion and a proposal for how this new group is going to look and how it's going to be put together, but we're still chugging along. So, anybody have any questions?
Okay, any questions for Jody, College Council? Yes, I think, at least I would, and I won't speak for anybody else, and they can speak up, but I would very much appreciate a report on progress.
I would be happy to bring you an updated report
Okay.
at the April study session.
Super. Thank you, Jody. Okay, our third report, Educational Services Staff Council. I saw Kevin here. Kevin Yarbrough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Dr. Schaefer, and rest of the Board of Trustees. If I'd known there'd been so many people here, I think I would have called the VP to come in and break it. Just a couple of quick things also. Last week we had the chili cook-off during the spring break, and that was a success. I think our numbers were down a little bit, but we did pretty well. And what we decided was everybody to vote for their favorite soup or chili with pennies, and from there we would contribute to the clubs that are involved with the current penny wars, which is Phi Theta Kappa, student government, the dental program, Rotaract, DECA, and I don't say this very good, Phi Beta Lambda? Okay, and so each of them, we had $33 used up in the Italian for votes, and so each of them got 550 pennies added to which is $5.50.
For those of us who are slow on math.
Here, let me get my calculator.
Just wanted to make sure Vicki didn't put $550. Okay, our next big event is staff retreat. It'll come up May 16th. We'll be in Lions Park, and as we've mentioned before, we're changing the format a little bit this year to give the staff multiple opportunities for different events and sessions to attend. We're really pushing forward with the budget we have. We're not going over, we're not increasing that. We're going to do more with what we have. And with the hopes, because in the past we've had about a 30% of staff attending the staff retreat. And when we talked to Dr. Schaefer a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned that this is a big push to see if we can get the staff involved in that once a year, half a day professional development retreat deal. If the numbers do not increase this year, we may look down the road at other options to let this go and see what else is out there. ESSC, a lot of clubs don't really have per se a budget that comes from you guys. ESSC does, specifically for this. And so there's money and time and resources that go towards the staff retreat every year. And if it's not used to the benefit that we think it should be, we may look at other options with that. But this year, we're giving everything we've got to make it the best thing product we can produce. So we will go from there and see what happens. Any other questions?
Any questions for Kevin? Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay, our next report, Faculty Senate. Jeff Schmidl.
This is a crowded house, and I think Tracy just started. I'm sorry we only have one set of minutes here. Our latest minutes just got approved. Archie missed the last Faculty Senate meeting, so we weren't near as fast on our minutes. Anyway, you'll see them next time. I wanted to thank the board for the dinner earlier today. I think it went well. I think faculty appreciated the chance to visit with you. I learned a lot about John's wild days in college. You can ask him about it.
I didn't think we went that far.
So, I won't tell you these stories. I know that Greg's going to ask me what our most pressing issue is.
Yes.
And so I'll just tell you. Right now, probably the most pressing issue is the faculty credentials policy that's being worked on. There are a number of concerns about that. We did meet with Joe today and talk about that, and I think he shares the same concerns, and we're going to look at how can we make that a good policy and ensure that we have quality faculty on the campus. And so I think that we're moving in the right direction with that, but that's something we're going to continue working on. Any questions?
Any questions?
One question.
Yeah.
What's a time frame for this credentialing? As you know, maybe it was back in the February board meeting, I said, why doesn't the board just weigh in on this and let's get this done instead of letting it drag on and on and on? So maybe Joe and you can elaborate on what you see as a schedule at this point.
Well, I do know that Joe does want to get board's input on this. I'm right in saying that, right?
No. Mr. Chairman, Trustee Kilby, I think we're anxious to move on this. There are a few things that have or will necessitate sort of a thought process to our timeline. One, of course, is your conversation about changes in governance. Under your current governance model, the institution can advance and move on the institutional policy side of it. I think we all want the board's input and involvement in major policies determining how and who and why we hire key personnel on campus. We do that through policies, and so we have to facilitate that shift from your current governance model to that. What I can tell you is we are starting that conversation. Dr. Tigner had it on the cabinet agenda as of yesterday. We're getting ready to broaden that conversation. I've told Mr. Schmidl and the Faculty Senate members that they would have a key role in that consultative process with that. So we'll move on it. I can't say exactly what the timeline is. If the institution moves faster than you as a board moves in changing your governance model, we may have to come back and revisit that anyway. So it's not an excuse, but more trying to time all of these things that are in the works.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Is there an intent to try to, at least in the shadows, or as much as we possibly can, use this as we move forward in hiring?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Mosier, that is a good question. I would say that there is clearly an intent to ensure that we adhere to hiring quality faculty with the right credentials. How much of policy and discussion will play in changing the current processes, I don't know an answer to that, but we'll certainly have conversations to make sure that that we are adhering to the direction we're going in regards to that policy's development.
Okay.
How was that for a roundabout answer?
I like it. I can live with that.
And I think, as back at Sen, we talked about this, and I shared this with Joe as well. It really needs, we need to look at 4100 policy, 4100 hiring policy as well, and the two things need to mash together. And so, you know, it may be appropriate to wait a little bit just to look at that policy at the same time. I don't know. Certainly, our hiring policy needs to match the credentials policy.
Any other questions? Jeff? Okay, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda, Mr. Bradley, do you have a little report for us?
Just quick.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, trustees, just a few things to update on. One thing that I, just with the foundation itself as well as myself, what I've been doing over the last month that I've been here in this position, I've been meeting with the divisions, the directors, vice presidents. I've met with 16 of them so far, just to get a pulse as to what's going on on campus, with the needs in the 1-star, see how those align with what the direction is of the college, and see how those things can match up. Another thing that's been going on is the foundation has established a budget figure to present to the Board of Trustees as requested. I'm not sure the date in which that's going to happen, but that has been established and will be done. Update on the Matching the Spirit campaign. Currently we stand at $650,000. Since January 1st, we've raised approximately $66,000 in pledges, cash, and new scholarships, along with $20,000 from the Cheyenne Guitar Society, which brings our total for the year since January 1st to $172,000, which includes the state matching money. That's a pretty good deal. Another thing I want to bring up that we have coming up, be sure to take a look at the Facebook page because we have multiple events coming up. We have the honor roll, we have the faculty drive coming up, and most certainly these events are posted on there for you to look at. That's about it.
Okay, any questions for Tom in regards to the foundation? Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Okay, and last but not least, we have the LCCEA, and I'm not sure who's representing today. Ann is. Okay.
Nancy's directing the choir.
Gotcha.
I'm Ann Wolf, the Vice President of the Education Association. We met with Dr. Schaefer this afternoon. We had just discussed with him allocation of scholarships, federal work study money availability, composition of hiring committees, division realignment, student services, distant learning. And I'm pleased to report that every issue and concern that we brought up, Dr. Schaefer was already on top of it. So thank you.
Aware of, yes. I don't know how I'm taught by everybody.
Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Okay, I will open, is there any public comment on any of those reports? Anybody want to say anything about them? You'll have opportunities to chat about other topics. So if there are none, we're going to move on to our next section. President's reports. First report is the Children's Discovery Center. And Joe, are you going to do this? I know.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if
I
I could just give a 2-second intro, if you will. This is probably one of the bright spots of my onboarding here at LCCC was one of my first tours of the Children's Discovery Center. In fact, I did that when I was down here on a visit before actually coming on board formally. I did not have the privilege or perhaps the baggage of knowing necessarily the history of the CDC But as I've been working with Carrie and Stephanie and other folks on the preparation of this report that I believe you asked for about 6 months ago, roughly, I got a bigger picture of what the CDC has gone through in regards to change, and I think many of the fine folks in the room tonight are parents and participants in the CDC, and so I know you'll be able to hear from them as well as Carrie on the transformational change that we've seen within that center. And so with that, I just want to let you know that I am excited and pleased at what we have there in the CDC and what it means to this community and this campus, and I know that Carrie, Stephanie, and others will share that as they give you an updated report on the CDC.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, board members, we are so excited to be here tonight. I'm going to keep it brief because we do have representation of some parents, students, and faculty that would like to speak more about what they see has been happening down at the center. So I do want to tell you that we have made amazing strides in the last 2 years. Some of those are listed on your document, the past and the present. I would like to let you know that a significant change that is not noted in the document is that we received tax exemption status from Laramie County. The exemption was we had applied for because we are a lab school environment, and so we were granted that exemption, and so we were thrilled about that. That's saved us quite a bit in taxes, so we were thrilled about that, and that is not in your packet. That was just as of a couple weeks ago. The LCCC Children's Discovery Center embraces the mission statement of our college. Laramie County Community College empowers our community of learners to achieve their personal, academic, and professional goals by providing a collaborative teaching and learning environment. Having worked on mission statements, I embrace them, I understand what they are, and I really feel that that is all I'm going to say. I want you to hear from those folks that are actually the consumers, the collaborators with the center, and I think that they will illustrate how we really speak to our mission statement here at the college. We have, they're going to speak briefly. We have a very brief PowerPoint we'd like to get through and then open up for any questions that you might have. So I would like to start with Affie Ellis. Affie is a parent, and so Affie, could you stand up? Would you come on up? And
Come up
then
there.
I will just, yeah, Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and President Schaefer. Just want to thank the Children's Discovery Center and all their staff there for everything they do for my kids. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2.5-year-old son, and my 4-year-old, we first started bringing her to Children's Discovery Center after we had just not the greatest experience with a home daycare provider. And since we started taking her here, I couldn't imagine moving my kids elsewhere. The location's not, you know, in downtown Cheyenne, so it's a little bit of a hike to get out here. But for me as a parent, that's completely worth it. I know another parent has got some remarks she'd like to make, but just a few highlights of things that really I value as a parent. When we go out in the community and we see the Children's Discovery Center staff and teachers, my kids run to them and give them hugs. And every time they walk by a teacher, the teacher knows their name. And I feel like my kids are flourishing in this environment, and especially because of all the resources that are available. In the wintertime, I know they go through walks through the college campus. What a wonderful way for them to get exercise and be able to see the beautiful campus that you have here. So I just really appreciate all the work that goes into supporting the Children's Discovery Center and teaching my kids. It means a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Wow.
Ashley?
Thank you. I reiterate what Affie says. I'm a little bit of a dork. I prepare, but I blame my former speech coach, Graham Wilson. I probably won't go through my notes. I feel a little bit over-prepared, but I have this. I'm an English teacher at East High School, and I have a quote over my desk posted that I really love, and it's by Michelle Obama, and she said, "Even when times are rough, in the end, you're only as happy as your least happy child." And I really take that to heart. My husband and I have 3 children. We have a 7-year-old daughter, a 5-year-old son, and a 3-year-old son. All 3 have been through the program, so I really got to see the changes from the very beginning. My prepared nature, the minute I was pregnant with my first daughter, I did all the research, we visited everywhere in town, and at that time, the Children's Discovery Center did not take infants. So we had to wait till my daughter was 1, but the minute she turned 1, we were here. And now she is a 1st grader, and she is, of course I'll say this, she's the most wonderful 1st grader in town. It was because of her experience here that she went to kindergarten academically prepared, ready to go. But more important to me than that is she was socially ready to go. And because of that, we really felt it was important to keep our boys here through all the changes in management and staff. We kept our boys here. And now my son, who's outside, he will be ready to start in the fall. And boys are a lot different than girls, I think, especially academically. And I don't feel any less comfortable sending him to kindergarten than I did my daughter. And now our young son, our Andrew, who is different from the other 2, like night and day, he's 3, and this is the Andrew era. And the changes that we see as parents are just amazing. They do things like having library day every week, taking advantage of what's here. Music day. David comes home and talks about the music that they hear and learn about. Having guest readers in. My little Andrew gets to hear people read in books, and he can tell me what the books are about. So it's the little things as parents that we see changing throughout the years. And so really, I couldn't say more great things about these women and their staff, many of whom have been here since my daughter was a baby. So they're truly happy. I get to go to work every day knowing that they are happy. So, thank you. Thank you. Melanie?
Hi, I'm Melanie Mofield, and I'm a student at LCCC. I'm pursuing an associate's degree in early childhood education, and after that I would like to accomplish a degree in education as an elementary school teacher. I'm expecting and also a parent of a 3-year-old who attends the Discovery Center, and with me being a parent, employed, and a student, the Children's Discovery Center gives me the opportunity to do all of these things. I have a rewarding job teaching and assisting special needs children, and that gives me the experience to gain knowledge of the program I'm in. I have volunteered and observed at the Discovery Center, and I am about to do more observations there, and this is an excellent program to have available to us as students and allowed to give us excellent experience.
Tracy?
Oh, Tracy.
Hi everyone, I'm Tracy McEwen, and I just graduated from LCCC last year and transferred to the University of Wyoming, and I'm studying accounting. And I just wanted to share with everyone tonight my experience with the Children's Discovery Center as a part of my education. I have worked really closely with the Discovery Center since 2008. My first service learning project for my Principles of Management class really gave me the opportunity to put together a project from the ground up and do fundraising and do something good for the community. And they really took us under their wing, and in the end, we had set out with the goal to buy 1 touchscreen computer monitor, but in the end we were able to buy 3 and 5 flat screen monitors and 8 educational software programs. So that's something I'm really proud of. It really gave me a chance for the first time to really see my ideas come to life, and I met great students and great people. And after that project, I decided to get involved on campus and join clubs and take leadership positions. And ever since then, I've worked with the Children's Discovery Center to plant trees on campus with Phi Theta Kappa with the children. And also, I got to serve on hiring committees for teachers and the director, and that led to other hiring committee opportunities, so that was really great too. And it gave me real experience. And last semester, I worked closely with Carrie for my community leadership class at UW, and I was studying community building, and the center was my subject as a source of our community's human capital. And so I interviewed Carrie at least once a month, and she taught me about sense making, relating, visioning, and the inventing process used in the center. And she really helped me grasp the material. She read the assignments with me, made sure she was prepared, and taught me about logic models and managing faculty and communication techniques. And she was really my mentor for the whole semester. And 17 pages later, I got an A on my So all these experiences helped me grow and gave me the real experience that I need as a student and that I will use as a professional. And I think LCCC has a great program, and I'm really grateful that the center was able to be a part of my experience. Thank you.
Christina? Hi, I'm Christina Warren. I'm a mom and a nursing instructor here at the college. I have one daughter at the center. She's 4, and we were a little nervous about putting her in preschool. She was diagnosed with celiac disease, which is wheat intolerance, when she was 18 months, so we were a little nervous. But it's been wonderful. And not only that, she's had some speech issues, and they've helped us get Stride in with her and involved. And now you can actually understand what she says to you, and it's wonderful. She loves going to school. And as far as being a nursing faculty, we really like the center. We send our first semester nursing students there on Fridays usually 6 students, I believe, and they do Denver 2 developmental screenings on at least 6 different children in the facility. And it's a new opportunity rather than just the nursing homes to start them out in and gives them some preventative and some community sites. But I do have to say it's a very good program.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. President, Dr. Schaefer. I'm Luann Gerhardt, and I'm a psychology instructor here on campus. And I just want to say what a blessing the Children's Discovery Center is to my students. I have 2 classes that are specific, actually, that are working with the Children's Discovery Center. And the first one is the child psychology class. My students are required to do observations on children. And Carrie and the staff of the CDC have been very gracious about allowing all 23 of my child psychology students to come in and observe. And what they focus on predominantly is growth and development, the theoretical constructs that you find, Piaget, Erikson, and other theorists. They actually get to see the students observe, have to take notes, make documentation, write reflection papers on the observations that they make with the children in the Discovery Center. So they actually get to watch what they actually see and what they actually learn in the classroom. The other, which is the other psychology class that is specific with the Children's Discovery Center, is I also teach general psychology, and my students also do quite a bit of service learning. And my general psychology students this semester decided they were going to do a group project. And they voted. I love the democratic process. I believe that's very important in the classrooms. Is they chose the Children's Discovery Center as their focus for this semester. And for those of you who know service learning, you know that they have to not only do things with people and provide a service to others, but they have to reflect upon the service of what that service means to them. And so what the entire general psychology class is doing is they've adopted a logo. It's called Investing in Our Future, One Crayon at a Time. They're collecting art products such as crayons and markers and glue sticks for the Children's Discovery Center. Texas Roadhouse has been very gracious in allowing the students come at the end of the semester, or the end of April actually, and you'll be probably solicited to purchase a Texas Roadhouse ticket. All the proceeds will go to the Children's Discovery Center. And the students, the general psychology students, they come to class 45 minutes early, twice a week, have a business meeting, and then we launch into class. So none of their class time is taken away in terms of their planning. The Children's Discovery Center has been amazing for my students. I can't say enough of what the program has available to my students in our psychology majors, the education majors, the early childhood majors that take child psychology, and the nursing students that take child psychology. So I just want to thank you for allowing my students to have this opportunity.
Okay, hello again. Won't introduce myself because I think the board is fairly familiar with me and to see me on a regular basis. And I wanted to speak to you tonight from a little bit of a different perspective. I have obviously the unique opportunity to spend a lot of time with board members, spend a lot of time in board meetings, so I have heard over the years, or at least over the past year in particular, some of the concerns that you've had with the Children's Discovery Center and potentially the college support of the Children's Discovery Center, and in particular the concern that the college supporting the center would compete, I guess, would put it in a situation where it was competing with other centers in town, and I would like you to think about it from this situation. I know that Carrie's going to show you some statistics tonight that I've had a chance to look at as well, as far as how many students on campus are being served through the center, how many lab opportunities we're seeing in the center, and the wonderful things that they're doing there, and maybe look at the center from a different focus at this point in time. Not so much that it is a center that really is in a competition with other centers in the city, because I think you would be hard pressed to go out and find another center in the city that could truly function as a lab school the way that this one is functioning at this point in time. I count myself among the parents like Ashley who sort of rode the wave through the rough times with the center. I also, when I became pregnant with my first child, did a lot of homework. Obviously, the center held a lot of, was probably going to be my first choice because I'm on campus. Then I knew my children would be on campus here. But I also did my research and went out, and at that point in time, we made the decision that we wanted to have our children here. We have seen a number of different changes with some help from the center and a couple of other things. The center was taking infants at a much younger age when I had my first, and so my son has been in the center since he was 3 months old, and between the time period that I had my son and I had my daughter, the head teachers in the infant classroom had come to the administration and said, really, there's really no difference from taking a 3-month-old and taking a 6-week-old baby. And I thought, well, maybe we'll give it a try. And so I trusted the center enough to let my daughter be the pilot 6-week baby. She was the first ever 6-week baby that came, that came into the center. I have seen the changes. I'm in and out of the center all the time because I'm here on campus, and so I get to see those types of things. I've certainly seen the opportunities it offers to the students on campus. And I hold myself with the parents, much like what Ashley said. I have one that will be going off to kindergarten this fall, and focusing on the early childhood, and particularly in this day and age when legislative bodies are really, looking to hold K-12 instructors, very much accountable for what's going on in the classroom. This focus on early childhood is only going to give our children that go through this program a leg up. Ashley talked about Danny going off to kindergarten and her being the best first grader she knows. you know, I would like to say that Lance is gonna be the best kindergartner I know. I'm not sure that you will, but what I can tell you is that my son, who is going to be a younger kindergartner because he won't turn 5 until this summer, I was told by his two preschool teachers, with the class that he's in now, with the final preschool classroom, that he would have passed the kindergarten screening tests last fall in November. When they first did the screening for them, he would have passed his kindergarten screening tests nearly a year before he was going to start kindergarten. And I think that when you're looking at it from that standpoint, think about really give some thought to the statistics that Carrie's going to show you about how many students are being served and how this can truly be really the only laboratory early childhood education center that exists in Cheyenne, and consider those things as you move forward. Thank you.
We have prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation to illustrate how we strive to meet the goals of our community of leaders through collaborating and teaching. The next several slides will highlight some of the students' lab experiences. We also visit with high school students as a part of our opportunity for recruitment for future LCCC students. In the fall of 2011, we created a part-time classroom to help accommodate the needs of students. The quote on the side was received just this week by a parent/student. The current LCCC promotion slogan really applies to the LCCC Children's Discovery Center. It really does start here. Our enrolled families represent students, faculty, staff, and families in the Cheyenne community. In our Read Across America, I would like to draw your attention to the governor's proclamation plaque that was presented to us last month. I'd like to read a part of it to you. It says, Laramie County Community College trains future educators and offers a comprehensive preschool and child care program at its Children's Discovery Center. We are continuing to grow our list of partnerships as well. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share progress on the growth of the Children's Discovery Center. At this time, we would like to answer any questions that you may have.
You ready for us? Oh. I forgot or didn't see the yellow piece of paper below, but I think that you already know that we are being filmed and streamed. Am I correct? With you guys, thank you for doing that. And they warned us that you would be here someday. I guess today is the day. Thanks for doing that. Well, I guess first of all, I'm going to start off. I think one of the problems we had, and we discussed it with some of the faculty folks today at dinner, is, you know, we're folks from the community. We don't get around here very often, so we don't know a lot. So it's always a great opportunity to have you present and show us what your programs are doing. So I do appreciate that very much, and I appreciate the parents coming in and telling us their thoughts and feelings, etc. So we've heard a lot of good things. Is there any bad things you'd like to tell us about? and I'm going to rephrase that. I won't say bad. I'm going to say things that you would like to see. More support. How could it be a better place? And then I'll pipe in on a couple other things, if you've thought about that.
We have. We always have the big goals and the smaller goals, you know, that we're working toward. We are in our center, and I'm not going to go through the documents unless you have specific questions about those with the numbers and those kinds of things. I will tell you that there are waiting lists in every classroom. We get calls daily about would there be an opportunity to have just a preschool morning and a preschool afternoon experience just for the age. We are very space bound at this point. So for our center to grow into some of those things that would also facilitate more opportunities perhaps for our community and for our students, we would need to have a little more space. But I think right now we are very proud of the collaborations that we have been getting from our faculty here at LCCC and from the administrators that we have been working with. We see ourselves as we are part of the college, you know, and we take that very seriously. When Stephanie was showing the high school students, we want to reach out into our community. We want our young people to know what LCCC is about. When they come in for the tours for their child development classes, it gives us an opportunity to highlight our campus too, which is great because in their young minds, they're actually seeing something that they might connect with, you know, so it really helps. I think that our challenges always remained, you know, our revenue issues are not the problem we collect. We have instituted some new, where a parent comes, there is a $25 non-refundable deposit plus the first month is also taken in as a deposit, and that is kept in sort of an escrow until we make sure that, you know, all bills have been paid before the child accesses this center. If not, we have that money now. So that has always been a previous problem that we have corrected now. We don't have, in the last several months, we have not had any problems with parents, you know, paying their full bill. Our challenge with the Department of Family Services, that they stepped into a new billing system. It's been very chaotic around the state, and here in Cheyenne too. It supports several of our students here at LCCC, and so a dream of mine one day would be to figure out if we could work with the foundation just to try to figure out a way that we could support our students more financially that have children that need to come to the center. We don't have that capability now. The other thing that we don't have that I wish we could do at some point, if we could move ahead, is families that have more than one child at our center. I wish we could give them a small break in tuition. We can't do that right now. Staff children, we don't do that either. But those are things, you know, that are revenue bound and have to do with that, those kinds of issues. But keeping that conversation open with the board, keeping that conversation open with Dr. Schaefer and other administrators is exciting for us because we see that we're continuing to grow.
Okay, let's talk about your facilities a little bit. Right now, you're in 2 different spots, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Okay, probably not the best situation in the world.
No, well, our 4 and 5-year-olds are, their 2 classrooms are on top of the auto diesel building,
Right.
which presents some challenges
Okay.
some days.
I guess my point is you're in 2 separate buildings. About what kind of square footage do you guys take up?
Okay,
You
on
might
the
have
spot,
told me
Tim,
that
do you
earlier.
know your voice and they're measuring and.
About 4,000.
Yeah.
So about 4,000. Okay. In a meeting earlier this week with Dr. Schaefer, we chatted a little bit about the CDC. And I guess in my mind, and I will admit, I don't know if I was so critical, but I did ask questions over the last 2-3 years. We had some problems, and I am happy to see that a lot of these operational issues that held it back look like they're solved, and that probably takes a lot of pressure off of you. We do have in our master plan some type of facility for CDC or for the CDC. And I guess what I really want to know is let's make some assumptions here. Does it need to be 10,000 square feet? Does it need to be 15,000 square feet? 20, you're probably getting a little too high for me, but I think that's the type of things we need to know. Because in that we have various mechanisms to potentially do that. And we talked quite a bit about space, and we're going to talk about facilities plan a little bit later. The space won't be lost if we move a program like this to another facility. We'll be able to reclaim that space and so on. So I can just tell you, and unlike my thoughts on other programs at our school, where I think the program needs to come and show that there is need for facilities for the program, this is a different animal. You have to have the proper facilities on the front end. So I would like to see you think a little bit more about what kind of facility would be an ideal facility, and then we can kind of put our heads together and be creative about how to accomplish that. Related to that, and you talked to it a little bit. What was your name again?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, you talked to it a little bit. It looks like the path we're moving is more of a lab school, which I'm very happy to see. And I would just encourage our faculty to get as many folks involved. It doesn't hurt anybody to get involved in that age group. Your thoughts on making some assumptions. In the perfect world, you had a nice larger facility, probably double, maybe triple the size of your population of students. How does that fit into the community? Again, there is this perception of, I don't know if perception or reality, but there is that in the community that we do compete with other facilities.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm sitting on the Joint Powers Board, and they were, at that one time when they were looking at building a new facility and that kind of thing.
This is the one out at
That was outside.
East Business Park, okay?
And they came and toured about a month ago what they're looking for, and they felt like whatever happened in that episode that was prior to even living in Cheyenne, that there was a misunderstanding of what the concept was, a training educational facility. And so I think that in looking at that, I have visited with some of our instructors here on campus. Scott Moncrief is one, and the reason I'm mentioning this is because we see this as supporting early education throughout Cheyenne. So in the evenings, or if we were to build upon the idea of a facility, we would have a training room on site where we would be able to bring in other providers to come and learn and see and understand how to really arrange their classrooms, how to provide support. Because I can tell you I'm doing some adjunct teaching right now, and I have several students that are from the local communities in my class that want to know, are eager to know about how to build facilities, you know, so I see if that answers your question, we see even in the community as a training center.
No, that does answer the question I was looking for. Any other questions from board members? Kevin?
If you had to put a figure to it, how many students, I'm not talking about students that have kids in the facility, but how many students get some sort of an educational experience from this? I mean, you showed us dental hygiene, nursing students, and on and on and on. But what sort of numbers do we have? I'm sure you prepared them already.
Yes, they're on
I
the
think
sheet,
they're
on
on
the
this, Kevin, on this
back
colored
sheet.
one.
Okay.
And what we do is report that every month, because every month, there's a web and flow for that, like, right after this is, during this, month of March where there were several students on spring break, we didn't have obviously as many students coming in, but all of a sudden we're getting a lot of students saying, oh, I gotta get my project done, I need to come in, and so we're seeing our numbers jump again per observation. It's, so it just, but we continue to promote that, and one of the things that we wanna do, is work with our faculty to promote, to be really creative in thinking how they could take an exercise and have them come into the center. So, you know, and those were just some of the departments represent some of the students. I mean, we have had students coming in from actually from other campuses that are looking for places to do observations. And, you know, we have UW students coming saying, can we come to your site? Tracy, a graduate here at LCCC, been now attending UW, came over because she was familiar and asked if she could do, you know, her one paper that she mentioned. So, did I answer your question? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah.
They do
Okay,
have
and-
some stats on that
Yeah, I
sheet,
do.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we just continue to want to grow.
Yes, Ed?
I really like what you've done. I think you've come a long way from the discussions we had sometime in the past. Two things. One, do you have roughly an understanding of what the ratio might be for the number of employees and students who make up that percentage of your student population?
We do can I send that to you?
Sure.
Can I email that to you? But we do have those figures.
And the other thing, it's just an aberration in the data, but I was wondering, after school, is there a reason why the numbers have gone down? They were up. I realize that was summer, July and August, but then September through March, and those numbers have come up a little bit, but what's the reason why we see that?
I can kind of speak to that a little bit. Some of the things that we've seen is changes for our after-school program is one, a lot of the schools went to having an after-school program within their school. The second part of that is that we are a little bit farther out here, and a lot of the children that we have that come to our after-school program now have siblings already in the program.
Now, on the flip, the school age summer program that we'll be kicking off, those numbers, our phones are ringing off the hook with, and that's a full day program for school age children during this summer. So we have, we're seeing a real jump in the interest in that. And our hope, one of our dreams, is to work with the SEEK program also, and providing, some opportunities for children that are coming out for those 2 weeks of SEEK, but also to be able to provide that more throughout the summer in partnership with SEEK. So that's something we haven't had a chance to talk with them about. But right now, the applications are going out for the summer program, which is a school age program, and you'll see a big jump in those numbers for the summer based on that. Otherwise, we did a before and after school program. We found that we just didn't, for the parents to get out to campus for us to transport their children, we didn't see enough of a number to make it work financially for us. So we are just into the afternoon pickup. And a lot of those children are faculty children and children with siblings and those kinds of things. So, go ahead.
Part of the struggle for us with that is because we are quite a ways out here. you have to have all the children picked up by 4 o'clock, so we have just a small number of schools that we can commute to and from. And so we choose the schools of the parents who already have children in our program, to be able to pick up at those schools. So we are only able to pick up from a couple schools.
Any other questions? Yes, Kevin?
Just one, I was looking at the stats on this sheet, and it looks like you're a little bit over capacity right now. Is that so, and is that any particular problem? It says you've got 124, and it looks like your capacity is 113, if I'm reading this right.
Yes, this is, what you're seeing right here in our numbers is our part-time multi-age classroom. We can only have 15 children in there at a time, but we can enroll up to 40 children at a time. Well, 40 children on the list, but they all can't be there at the same time. So just different little pockets, which increases our enrollment.
And this woman is a whiz at putting schedules together, because I gotta tell you, when you have 40 children, you've got how many slots, and you can't overlap that because you have to stick with our DFS ratios at all times, of course. She's a master of that.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Ed?
Just for down the road future sometime, be interested in hearing, because it's very popular out there. It's an issue that we have to deal with, and that is bullying. And maybe sometime you could tell us how that's handled within your system as a report.
I can tell you briefly, we do with our, we're teaching, part of where our children are right now in their ages is learning about self-esteem and group esteem, how to care for each other, how to care for themselves as individuals. So the teachers have adopted a color system, and they use that color system, a blue being at the blue, green, red, and yellow, to help the children if there is an episode that happens, that the children, the teacher says, well, that would be blue being a wonderful moment in our lives. That would be a blue moment. Great, right on. Oh, that was a red moment. You need to work on that, and so that gives them an opportunity to not point directly at the child, but talk about what happened with the child, and bring in the other children that were involved, and talk with them and start that as a process of learning of how to care for themselves and how to care for the others around them. So you start that early. With that color, it seems to magic with the children, because they get it without feeling like, that they've been beaten up inside if they've done something wrong, because they're learning. And very rarely do you ever, I've never known a child that is being mean just because he wants to be mean. There's usually something behind it that's promoting a frustration or something like that. So in early childhood, with all the brain development, what we found, if you set those wonderful strategies in place for them to learn how to cope and how to be kind and work within a group, then you really set the stage. And I think that's what we're seeing with our kindergarten readiness. We're tracking how our children are doing in the kindergarten readiness with their statistics that parents are reporting back to us, so we can kind of get a handle on that. And a big part of that is social emotional development. How do they feel about that? So,
in addition to that, our teachers do a lot of modeling for the children. If they have an incident, the teachers are there to help show them how that incident should have gone to go better, to help the children work together instead of picking at each other.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much
thank you
for the
so
presentation,
much for the time.
and I'm sure we'll have the chat again very soon.
That would be wonderful. We'll think about those numbers that you were talking about. That would be wonderful. At this
Well, I would like to talk to you about it.
Oh, okay. If our parents could be, you're free to go, they've been so good to come, and thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We still have quite a bit to do, so
I don't know why they were all here.
yep, we will move into the next.
And I didn't realize.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, while we're shuffling and restretching and doing that, I do have some other good news that I want to share real briefly, if you will. If you draw your attention here, Brenda, I know you can't see them, but you are standing right next to 2 national awards that Laramie County Community College recently received, and these are a big deal, and so I want to just take 2 seconds to talk about them. 3 individuals from our public relations department, Mel Jones, Scott Sauter, and Stacy Schultz-Bissett, attended a national convention for the National Council of Marketing and Public Relations. We had entered and had 3 regional awards that came forward. This organization is a collection of the community colleges, public relations activities at a national level. So these are all of the community colleges across the nation that participate in these things. LCCC had 3 submissions, and we won 2 gold awards. National awards for the recognition of the things. One for our view book, and the other for our new mascot logo, the new Golden Eagle logo. And this is impressive. What's even more impressive, and there was a comparison of this the other day, to put it in a Wyoming context, Casper College went out and created a new logo for their athletics as well, spent $75,000 on it. Scott Sauter, who is now an employee of ours, was an intern at the time and did this for us, and it won a national award, a gold award. So this is impressive. And what you have here is a rendering of what our basketball court will look like when we refinish it with the new logo and working on it. So CDC moving in the right direction, winning national awards. I mean, really there are some cool things happening here, and these folks are doing just a wonderful job. So I just wanted to make sure I had a moment to share those with you so that you could share in some of the pride that I have for what we're doing here at LCCC.
Good, and these are some of the view books that we've had that I passed you around. Huh?
It's all a packet.
It's all a packet, okay.
So the outer skin is what
Okay.
the view book is in.
Okay, I got you.
But what's this one?
These are the actual awards. You can come up and look at those too. I think these are cool.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, well, thanks, Joe, for popping in on that. Okay, let's talk about facilities expansion and renovation priorities, Joe.
Right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you recall, not so long ago, although it seems like it's been a while, at your January planning meeting, I promised to bring back to you a shortened, whittled down, refined, prioritized list of facilities that we are proposing the campus take a more of an aggressive action on in terms of accomplishing them. So we took the campus master plan, looked at those facilities and those projects that were identified in phase A and phase B, had a conversation and started to refine and really focus the types of things that we might be able to tackle within the next 5 years. This is a draft. Notice the word draft here. And it is something for us to start that conversation. And so what I wanted to do tonight is, 1, fulfill my obligation to you to bring something forward, and 2, walk you through what I see as the 5 priorities for LCCC's facilities over the next 5 years, and how we might start tackling those. So if you'll flip to page 1, priority 1, it's called the University Student Center. Now, you may have known this. This is the project formerly known as the UW Center. And I want to tell you a little bit about why the title has changed some. We've had considerable conversations across campus, some of them that are board members. I know, Mr. Chairman, you've been involved with conversations about facilities. There is considerable need on campus for new space to allow us to accomplish some of the goals of integration, collaboration, and really refinement of the types of services that we offer on this campus. There is a significant need for classroom space, for office space. And yes, we do have need and want to aspire to bring space specifically for the University of Wyoming, their outreach center, and programs that they would potentially offer here. And who knows, even other university partners that are looking at Cheyenne as a place to deliver opportunities for baccalaureate and graduate programs. And so this is very much in line with the concept and the philosophy behind the University Center as we've been discussing it, with some refinements. And we see this as probably one of the best projects that we can accomplish it within 5 years, through a variety of funding mechanisms that will address some of the immediate needs of the campus. If we free up some space with this new space, it allows us to do many other things that we are trying to accomplish across the campus, because we simply don't have any place to move people to renovate other space and do other things. The second priority is the Flex Tech building, and I believe we've had conversations about this in the past. We have some growing programs. You heard about our diesel program at one of your past meetings. In regards to that program being at capacity, needing both faculty as well as space. We have other programs where student numbers are starting to outpace the space that we have. And in addition, we have opportunity to respond to the emerging industries that we're starting to witness creep into Cheyenne through programming and flexible space. It is a relatively affordable building. It is one I believe we could program almost immediately and will provide significant opportunities. We also believe that there's considerable appetite from the private sector to help us fund this project. The third priority is listed in here as kind of a big priority that needs some refinement, but it really deals with our residence halls. Most of you have been aware around since the addition of the East Residence Hall and what that's done. I think through the master planning process you recognize some of the shortcomings of the existing residence hall and the need there. We also have a significant need and demand from our students. In fact, we've had a waiting list this year for students to actually be residential students on campus. We have not been able to accomplish those. This is somewhat of a tricky process, though, knowing that students and their occupancy in the residence halls would help fund new residence halls or the maintenance and sustaining of a residence hall. So how you take one offline without losing or displacing students while bringing other ones on will be somewhat tricky, but it's a priority that I think we can actually move on and should move on, and there's considerable interest and need on campus. The fourth priority is an expansion at the Albany County campus, and I will admit bias that it appears that our best opportunity is through a partnership with the University of Wyoming. Most of you have had the conversation, or have at least understood the board of the University of Wyoming, as well as the leadership there and their interest in providing space on campus for partnerships and specifically for LCCC. There are many opportunities to do that. Funding could happen from a variety of mechanisms, but one we would hope is that the university would hold true to their at least initial offer of building those facilities and opening them up to us. But what we know is that campus is currently at capacity. We are turning students away and could be doing so much more over in Albany County, so it should be a priority for ours. And then the last priority is sort of a catch-all, and we've titled it a campus facelift. And it incorporates many of the campus master plan recommendations for doing things that would enhance the external elements of the campus: landscaping, lighting, signage, pedestrian ways, those types of things, addressing the major gateways. And I'm happy to state that our facilities folks, Mr. McNamara, who we spoke with today, is already on top of some of these things. But it's time for us to take a very aggressive step at giving our campus a facelift and show them the quality and the pride that's going on inside our buildings by doing a little bit more on the outside. So each of these projects is doable, I believe, within 5 years. The planning and the implementation of them, taking into consideration both the financing needs but the impact on the human resources of the campus, will take some finesse. The dates for the proposed planning are just that. They're proposed, they're draft, and I know we do not want to overwhelm our facilities folks with taking on too many projects, but we really do want to start moving on some of these projects right away, and the place to do that is with planning. Now, at a subsequent meeting, what I hope to bring to you is an actual proposal for your approval to fund and start planning. And right now, I can tell you that we're sort of torn between three projects of where do you start. Do you plan and start doing the planning on the residence halls? Do you take the leap and do level 2 planning on the university center? Do we just jump in full bore because of the opportunity and do both level 1 and level 2 planning associated with the Flex Tech building? I don't know. We do have some money set aside this year to do some of that planning. I think your original intent was to do that with the university center. We do anticipate having money in the budget, either through new allocation or carryover funds, to do more planning next year and want to do that. So part of it will be understanding what your priorities are and what you want to see us move on first, knowing that they will have to come in sequence because we won't be able to do them all at the same time. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I will be quiet and listen to your thoughts and hopefully be able to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Carol, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. I know this is a lot of work in a short amount of time. And before Raj Shalisky can say anything, I'm somewhat disappointed that a new fine arts building is not on this list. So,
Okay, can you explain?
The reason is that I think, from what I've heard from the folks here at LCCC, is that we are very, very crowded where we are. And that we need that building to bring more people onto the campus and also give our students more room to learn.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Trustee Merrill, if I may, I have certainly heard that as well, and there is a compelling argument for the need. I think we've renovated a portion of our fine arts area, and there is a need for renovation in other areas. The reason that it is not on here is complex, but I'll try to simplify it. In general, there are two major things three that I think held us up. The first is that I'm not sure that from a student-centered classroom educational basis that it rose necessarily to the level of need that we have for general use space, for some of the trade space with the emergence of these new industries in there, and the question of what we would do in terms of educational programming in that facility. That's not to diminish the need to remodel and renovate some of the fine arts areas on campus, but it was one of the realities that if we were going to invest in projects that we could get done in the next 5 years and immediately program, it just didn't make it to the way the Flex Tech building or the University Center would be able to do that. Number two, there's considerable conversation, and I won't say concern, but conversation and question about the utilization of the fine arts facilities in the community. And if we were to truly go out and ask the community to help support that facility, I don't know that they would be able to step up and do just that. We've heard the questions about the Civic Center's utilization, its operational status, fiscally, and those types of things. So I don't know that we necessarily could have done that. And then number three is just the price tag that's on that building. I mean, that is, even with the refinement, I believe it was still over $30 million after our planning and things like that. So when we talked about it, it's not that we do not value that concept or that thing. Just when we talked about it and looked at what we could accomplish in 5 years and serve immediate needs, it just didn't raise to where those other two facilities did.
Thanks, that's a good answer.
Anybody else? Yes, Kevin.
So what was the criterion by which you ranked these priorities? Was it largely flexible space, which I know our master plan suggested we needed some of, and I don't have off the top of my head how much, but here we're looking at maybe 42 to 72,000 square feet with another 54 over here. How does that compare with what the master plan said we actually would need?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Kilty, these numbers are initially from the master plan with some modification. The university building, for example, there was conversation, should be 3 stories, 4 stories, what does that do overall? But the numbers themselves actually at the low end are those that came from the master plan. We moved those over there. In regards to criteria, there's really 3 of them that we looked at. One was truly where could we make the immediate impact, either through programming, through freeing up other space that we want to do things for addressing the other priorities within the master plan. So for example, we've talked about both the reorganization and the organizational assessment and the master plan consolidating student services into student central one-stop student shop. We've talked about a learning commons and what we can do there, and then certainly with the consolidation of the university projects and things like that. So looking at those areas that we could have immediate impact, the residence halls, we know there's a waiting list, we know we have a failing building, we know we need to address those. Albany County campus, same thing. So we looked at where we could have the immediate impact. And then we looked at, okay, what's really feasible? I mean, if we're going to set a 5-year plan, what could we actually accomplish in terms of overall expenditures? And even how we will accomplish those is still something we'll have to discuss. And taking a look at those things that would have the impact to do that. And then the third one, I'm spacing out the specific third one, is what we could accomplish, what was feasible, and then the momentum, the funding and the momentum that we currently have in place. For the Flex Tech and the University Center, with the University Center, we're already through essentially a level 1 process. It did go through the capital construction modeling and came out of that model as number 1, I think, before it went through the political model. It did not come out. Considerable interest in at UW. I think there's considerable interest with you. It doesn't provide a whole lot of flexible space, so that one came along. With the Flex Tech building, we have an emerging interest in those fields and those areas. I think it's there. The University of Wyoming, the Albany County campus, there's interest there. So really looking at where do we have the momentum to actually take a leap on these things with the campus facelift activities. As I said, facilities are already looking at this. We're already moving on some of it. So it was really about capturing where we have momentum then.
Go ahead. It was my understanding that with some of these facelifts, I mean, this is priority 5, but some of the facelift stuff, I thought the campus lighting, the signage and wayfinding, and some of the landscaping, that we were ready to go on that. We can fund that internally. Yes?
Yeah, without a doubt, and in fact, that's one of the conversation that I had with Vice President Hoagland and Mr. McNamara this morning, was that indeed we're already working on some of these things. They're in the projects. We'll have other opportunities to do that. This plan does not necessitate the funding source. In fact, you'll notice that we say everything from internal funds, local funds, private giving, and those types of things. But yeah, I think we're already moving on them and can move on them. It's in there because I believe from the master plan, and I'll be honest, I'll admit a little bias from myself, we need to take pride in this, and we need to do it and invest in it, and they're actually doable projects where funding actually is available.
Yes, sir. I'm going.
Getting back to funding, this seems to be the bugaboo here. And every place you've got private giving, state funding, local funding. How are we going to decide what our potential is here? We have some bonding authority. I don't know what we can count on for state funding. And when we talk about private giving, Bill has already mentioned this. There are lots of other campaigns going on in town that may in fact tap out a lot of that private giving. So how can we do some sort of a study that would give us just a bulk number of how many dollars we have to do these things? How can we do that?
Well, we could certainly do it. The first place, Trustee Kilty, is to determine, do you agree that this is what we should be spending our time on and really be moving on? And if that's the case, we can do a variety of things. There are actually people that we've worked with in the past and could work with that could help us understand the financing mechanism, the debt capacity that the institution has, and how we might look at our own issuance of revenue bonds. There are ways to ascertain what the bonding capacity is, the debt capacity is of the community, and figure out if there was an opportunity there through our studies. We have been in conversations with the foundation, with Mr. Bradley, and with other folks about moving into a potential capital campaign process. As a component of that process, even though questions have come up about that, I still believe that there's an opportunity to do a feasibility study, which is one of those initial quiet elements of a capital campaign, to go out to the community and say, these are the needs of the campus, here's our case, what's the feasibility of having this funded and by what mechanism? And we can get an idea on what the depth of the private giving may be, what the appetite of the community may be for taxing themselves to help support these projects, and that will also help us refine as well. So I would suggest that we'll actually take a multitude of approaches to try to wrap some feasibility around each of these funding elements. To be honest, I think we'll have greater chance initially through private giving and local support than we will through the state process. But I believe we have, at least with one of the projects, significant opportunity with the state process as we go through. So I don't have all the answers exactly what they are, but I can tell you we've been thinking about how we find that out.
Any other? Yes, Carol?
No, Ed
Oh,
was
Ed,
next.
go ahead.
I just want to come back to the fine arts. We're looking at programs there which I think are struggling to some degree. They're doing well, but they're struggling because of the facilities they're in. They're not very inviting. We do not have practice facilities. We don't have performance facilities. And I understand the community may be taxed out on some of this, but I would hate to see us take it off the card at this point. I really think we ought to keep that in our priorities and be looking at it in terms of looking for funding, doing some exploratory, looking through the foundation. I mean, you're looking at something I think that the community has some potential to get behind and get involved. And there may be some other avenues to work with, other community elements in developing some funding there, but I'm perhaps more concerned even with the programs themselves. I mean, having been for a number of years in a facility that was put on the back burner until about 15 years after it was initially to be done, and it really hampered growth and opportunities for programs in the business area. And I think the fine arts humanities are experiencing the same kind of challenges there. So I just don't want to see this program, the possibility of these programs expanding and being a key part. I mean, we've already talked about, you know, some of the things that they're recognized for in terms of journalism and so forth, that we see the art area and the gallery and stuff, and the gallery's too small. It's not really functional. And I think in the initial facilities plan, you know, the fine arts area was one of those that was recognized as being a need here. And I'd like for us to find a way to keep that and keep looking for some potential there, rather than not having it on our horizon.
Can I say something to this? What Joe's put together, and I had not seen this, we had chatted about the priorities, and I think what we charged him with was, what do we need to get moving on right away? We still have our master plan, okay? And I think there's two things that I think are important to recognize on this. Is a couple of these, and are high on our list. I don't think the fine arts should come off of our list. So maybe this is a little misnomer. Maybe this is we'll call it something a little bit different. This is kind of like this is our strategic attack on, or tactical short-term tactical plan on how we continue to move forward with our master plan, because I don't want to forget about these projects. I think that in conjunction with the foundation, we need to give them direction. We need to give them something to sell. Right, Tom? Do you think? And that's one thing that we're trying to formulate, and we don't want to take it one at a time. I think taking it one at a time has been a failing strategy over the years, okay? Okay, we got the health sciences building in. Well, when did that go in? 5 years ago? Okay, we should have used some type of momentum. I just have to say that, and if you read, it was in both newspapers, Casper College is completing a $90 million process. Now it's going to take them about 2 to 3 years, but that was their approach to this thing. They went and identified 3, 4, actually one's a child care facility, one's a new residence hall. Now the residence halls are a little different animals. They're kind of revenue, they can support themselves. That one is more just work. Funding isn't the biggest issue there. A university center. So the point is they had identified 3 to 4 to 5 projects, put that and bundled that together into a capital campaign rather than hitting them on a one-by-one. And I think, Joe, if I'm taking words out of your mouth, that's kind of the tactic that we want to try to push here. And you know, we're looking for direction from you. And so I think that's what this really is what's our capital campaign? What do we need to go after now, and how do we need to do it? The other thing I'd like to say is I don't think I want to wait around for any partners to come up with planning money. I think we can come up with the planning money. We take the lead. That's why I kind of like why we call it the University Center, because the way I look at it is UW can be a tenant. Okay, we'll build the building. Obviously, a tenant provides a tremendous amount of support and can have a tremendous amount of input. But I just don't think we want to get ourselves in partnerships where we're always kind of waiting. The partners are either behind us, and we haven't seen anybody dragging us. So, so that's what I think that Joe tried to put together. Is we got kind of two things in mind: how we're going to sell this thing. And you're right. And I don't know. We may have to go get some very specific not fundraising, but fund planning help to say, hey, here's where you can get this stuff and so on, and put together that funding plan. That maybe have to come in conjunction with that. You know, when I say planning, that's part of the planning, quite frankly. So I think that's the approach. I don't think that we're dropping the fine arts building. I do want to make sure that we that we address some of the immediate needs and opportunities that are right in front of us. And so that's my feelings on that. Yes, Bill?
There's no one in this room that's more interested in the Fine Arts Center and in having a Fine Arts Center than I am. Little Theater didn't make me a live member 25 years ago, and I didn't get the Governor's Arts Award because I'm not interested in the arts. But you know, you've got to think about the $30 to $40 million. And I just would like to say that while I really would like to push for it, what I think you've done here, Joe, is what's immediate and more immediate, even though I'd like to see the other. After they came out with the budget that the Civic Center operates on and their losses, you have no idea how many townspeople and business people I have heard that just were absolutely mortified to think that we had a civic center that the city taxes were supporting. And then they brought up the swimming pool as well, and this and that and the other. I'm just saying, you know, it's a wonderful thing to have on the list and keep it on the list. But Joe, I think this is the way we need to go for the time being. But yes, Roz, it shouldn't be dropped.
Well, I have one more thing
Go
to say
ahead.
that Joe, I think, was next.
No, please.
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
okay.
Please.
I don't want to bring our lovely ladies from CDC here, Stephanie and Carrie, and give them hope that we might give them a new child care development center, and not give them some kind of a time frame that might happen. And it might not happen for 6 or 7 years, but I don't want to leave them hanging there thinking, are we last? I mean, this place is making money now. It's really filling a need in our community. And if we could serve more people, I think we could. And so I want to keep that somewhere around, you know, maybe 5 years to 7 years, but at least let them know that we want them to have a really good facility and serve our community and the children of this community and the parents who bring their children here.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Merrill and Mosier, you both hit on something I just want to address. This does not replace, as the chairman said, your master plan. It does not replace the things you don't see, such as the significant deferred maintenance that we have going on this campus as well. The buildings identified in the assessment appendices of your master plan with the different colorations and things like that. Mr. McNamara and his staff are aggressively prioritizing and attacking those as well. So those don't go away. What all we're trying to do here is give us some better direction of where we should be focusing our efforts, start putting a plan behind us so we can start whittling away at that master plan, because in and of themselves, it's just too big. We need to start focusing and giving direction and allocating our resources that we have to do that. The CDC expansion is still on there, and there may be a bunch of different ways that we might look at establishing a facility for the CDC through other types of funding revenue. So it certainly does not mean that these projects are off of your list. You've adopted a master plan. We'll keep that master plan and we'll update them. This is just a time-bound prioritization of what we should try to tackle as an institution.
And I think it's a fine plan. I think you've done great work. I'm really proud that you've done it, that you've taken the time and thought it through, and that we will also be working with the foundation in some way to get this moving. But those are two big projects that are close to my heart, and so I had to bring them up.
I appreciate that.
Yes, Ed?
I appreciate the perspective in terms of the overall plan, and we'll call it short-term tactical here. Regarding that, two things. One, when we look at priority 1 or 2, and I'm thinking really of both of those, but let's focus on priority 1. We have, and we're looking at some funding to apply to this so we can get a level 2 study done. When that study is done, does that incorporate potential financing prospects, or is that something separate from that effort?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Mosier, and I may look at Vice President Hoagland to help me here. I don't believe traditionally those studies have included financing elements, but that doesn't necessitate or mean that we couldn't incorporate the support of somebody who could help advise us on that. Is that fair?
Correct. The level 2 does do some speculative
financing options in there, but we would need to take it to the next level and have an expert come in and help us with that.
Okay, and if we look at priority 3, I don't know if this has been done before. Seems like you've mentioned it a time or two before, but is there the potential for the dorm to look at a private firm to build that? And I don't know, you also, I think.
We talked about it on Monday.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely one of the options that we want to put in
May
the
I-
level 1 study.
Are you asking if a private company would come in and build it and run it? Is that what you're asking, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Private enterprise. Okay.
Very
Okay.
common
Yep.
on college campuses.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Mosier, so, and there are companies out there that will do that, build facilities, operate them, build them, lease them back, to do all kinds of things, and I'm hearing you say that you would like us to explore that.
I think you need to.
Okay. Okay.
So let me, I want to kind of wrap up a couple summary things. I think part of these, whatever plans we put together, there's got to be a funding component to these. We've got to get somebody that can come in and say, look, here's the realistic ways, breakdowns on how you can do this. There are people that are out there that do that, okay? The other thing that we had chatted about, and I don't know if you did, is I don't think there's anything prohibiting us from doing a level 1 and a level 2 at the same time. And I would highly recommend that we do that with the, at least Flex Tech building. Again, the starting and stopping and so on, I think is a killer. And it doesn't need to be done. It isn't how most private people do it. They dive in, and I do, and then I guess the last thing I'll say, and give us a little bit of an indication here. This year, Carol, help us, how much money did we have budgeted for planning for ourselves this year? A couple hundred?
Correct.
Okay, so we have a couple $100,000 from this year that we've already committed. Where would be potential other, and I guess that you would say that we could at least scrape up that much in our next year's budget. Okay, what are the other places that we may have the resources to, because I'm a proponent, I'm like, get in here and plan these things, because doggone it, that's how CWC gets what that's how most of these other colleges got their stuff done. They were ready to go.
And Mr. Chairman,
that puts the heat on the
put
legislators.
CWC on that list, but okay.
Well, I'm sorry, maybe I'm out of, I don't know, but I sit there and go, how the heck did they do that? How the heck did they do that?
Took them 4 years after they got the money to build their drone.
Oh,
so.
okay.
Mr.
But they got the money.
Well,
Mr.
Eli
Chairman,
got
there
him
is
the money.
$200,000 in the current year's budget. As many of you know, I believe the bid for the construction of the 3rd floor of the Health Sciences building came in roughly $300,000 below what was anticipated. So we do have resources now that we will carry some over to plan, and then some for the budget next year as well. It's not that the funding isn't even available right now. It's actually pacing and prioritizing which plans we tackle first, and how we do that. And I would still be curious to understand or hear from you. At the University Center now, Flex Tech, residence halls, University Center, Flex Tech.
See, the problem here is that ordinarily, and Greg may back me up and maybe Ed, you do capital budgeting because you have some amount of money you can spend, and then you figure out how you can make the best use of that money. We don't have any amount of money that we know that we can spend. And so that's what got me bothered here. If we were to find out that through all sources we could only raise $30 million, would you just jump over there and do priority 1 and let everything else go? Or would that amount of money now cause you to think about, well, we could do the Flex Tech, we could build the residence halls, we could do some other things with that money, and suddenly these other priorities now rise to the front because this other one would absorb everything you could possibly raise. See, I just don't understand how we're going to do this without knowing how much money we can actually realistically raise. Okay. And the fact that Greg brought up building the residence halls with private money, and we have talked for a long time about this Flex Tech building being dependent on finding some industrial partners to build it. We're still just speculating. And in fact, we're even speculating on priority one. I don't even know what programs University of Wyoming would be willing to put over here. And outreach is the only thing, and I don't even really know how well utilized our current space for outreach is. So, you know, when we talked about the master plan, we put the University Student Center priority one, but it's dragging. It has no more substance to it than it had a half a year ago. Don't you agree? I mean, the University of Wyoming just is not telling us what anyone is interested in.
I don't agree, because I don't think that we've focused our efforts on it. I think one of the things that Joe knew he had to get in here for a couple of months, and the legislature had to get over. I mean, we knew that. I would like to say that we are gonna go push very hard on the University of Wyoming in the next month. And they're either gonna wanna do something or not, and then we will explore other partners. I think what you're saying, Kevin, and I guess I'm gonna offer a solution, not the thing, but if part of our planning is, part of the scope of our planning is to get somebody in here to help us determine how we can raise the money, is that kind of going down the right path for you?
Yeah, because somehow we've
No, and I agree with you
somehow
on
we've
that.
got to figure out how much money we've actually got to spend, and I think that may affect these priorities when we find out what we actually have to spend, or how we can finance this.
But we have to start the study. We have to get this.
Yeah.
We have to get into it.
I think they're meshed together. You might have two different people doing it. I can't believe the funding study takes very long. I mean, we're gonna take a look at what are our opportunities. We're gonna take a look at, I'm trying to remember that guy that I met that does this in the state of California. That's all he does. But maybe, Joe, maybe we just have to have that component in the plan.
And Mr. Chairman, Trustee Kilty, that's sort of the interesting dichotomy of this process, is you have to know what you're going to build and what you're going to do to advance it, especially if we are going to consider the state funding element of it. But certainly building a case within the community, if you are going to ask state, it's different than, it's not as easy, at least in my interpretation, of wrapping our mind around what the capacity is, because some of it is emotional capacity of our taxpayers to vote for these various things. Now, our own debt capacity, yes, we can do that, and with the residence halls, since we would most likely fund that and figure that out, we can put that study together. But that is even contingent on what do we need and what does that look like, and that necessitates that level one planning. And so we could certainly approach them in conjunction. If we didn't believe that all of these projects were truly feasible within the funding possibilities that exist within the 5 years, they wouldn't be on there. I think they are. So we need to advance both the planning element of it and that. The level one planning that we had done with the University Center, and I've been through it, in fact it's right here if anybody wants to read it, really doesn't tell us a whole lot of anything about the needs of this campus or anything in terms of space and what we need. In many ways, a level two funding or level two planning for this facility really would have to back up a little bit and talk about that. What I can tell you is we have needs to consolidate, to renovate, to update key student service areas, some of the areas identified as part of the learning commons, classroom space, office space, and to be quite honest, bringing the University of Wyoming's outreach into a new place. So there's another amount of planning that we need to put in place to identify, should that be 4 stories, 3 stories, what is the element? So I guess I see them as being more tandem in nature, at least through level 1 and level 2, and then also the funding element, then going out and saying, well, you know, what's in the bank? Because what's in the bank depends on what we're selling, in this case, to be quite honest with you, especially for local taxpayer support.
So I guess the process, Joe, at least that you explained to me, is that you're gonna put some numbers together, what you think these planning processes are gonna take.
Yes, and bring back to you proposals for entering into the planning process, some sequential order for these projects.
And then Carol, who are the people that do the funding side of these types of projects, consulting?
The one I'm most familiar with is Kaiser and Company. George K. Bonham does it as well. I actually have a document from Kaiser and Company where they have done this exact study for the, college in Powell, and I have that document. We
Now,
don't-
is there bond type funding or?
Yes.
I mean, cause I'm looking at more than that. I'm looking at somebody to go out and figure out what, if we did a 5 mil levy, what's it gonna bring to us? Or maybe that's a
Right.
fairly simple computation.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It is, and.
I mean,
and-
our funding is gonna be 3 or 4 different things per project.
Correct, and there are options. As an institution, we are limited to about five or six ways unless we fund it ourselves, as far as the financing mechanism goes. What we can do is, if you're all right with that, I'll share, and they're all right with it, I can share you what they've done for Northwest, and you can kind of get a flavor for that. 'Cause what they can do, we can do too.
Yeah.
So,
Guess
we
what
have
I'm
a
saying
bonding
is,
capacity, we
you know,
have-
there's 3 pieces of this thing, you know? There's some idea of what programming is, there's a physical piece, and there's the funding piece. And I think that's what Kevin's pushing for. We need to get a handle on the funding piece. What is the potential?
And that would be part of our planning process in our level 2. We would have all that information.
So that is
came back.
part
I
of the
think-
level 2.
and correct me if I'm wrong, President Schaefer, what we're trying to find is for you to put us in a direction, and then we can go do all of these things that you're asking for.
Okay, any other discussion? Kevin, I mean, if we get that included, I mean, I think that's gonna,
Well, that'll certainly help make this all more tangible.
okay. Okay, this wasn't really anything to vote on today. We wanted Joe to at least present his first swipe. I think that, what was our timing on this? That you were gonna have some proposals?
Well,
Or at
because,
least an idea of, by our next the next business meeting?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, because we are approaching the end of the fiscal year, because we have monies allocated this year to actually do some of this planning, we would like to start on that planning
Okay.
soon. So I would anticipate at your, probably to be broached at your next study session, and then at your next business meeting, actually moving on the planning process with one of these facilities. And we can certainly take a look at the estimated cost, the considerations, to try to bring you a recommendation on whether it's the University Center or the Flex Tech building as that first swipe, and bring that to a study session for further conversation. And then
Yes, Ed?
Is there any reason why we couldn't?
Do both?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Mosier, the only reason is we do have folks on staff that will have to help facilitate the planning
Yeah, there you
process,
go.
and
Okay.
I have already had some points given to me by Mr. McNamara and Vice President Hoagland that there is only so much our staff can manage in terms of the planning, because they do play an integral role in that process and facilitating the meetings and the conversations and all of that stuff. And so that's really the interest in making this a little bit more sequential. But even as they sit now, it would be a very aggressive timeline, so we're already pushing that, and I think we can move on them, but just know that it's more of the human capital restrictions in this case in terms of what we can plan for and how fast we can do it.
So I guess expectations are this, you're gonna, have some information for us at the study session? Probably say, hey, I wanna do this first and I wanna do this, and here's what I think the costs are gonna be, and here's an idea of the people that ought to be able to do it in a timeline,
I can certainly do that.
okay? And then we would be able to make a decision at our next business meeting and get the ball rolling. Any other comments on that? I mean, you'll have a couple more times to take the swipe at it, but Joe, I do appreciate you putting it into more tangible than it was. And Kevin, I agree with you, the financing side needs to come. So, okay. Thank you for that discussion. It was a little longer than I wanted it to be, but it's fruitful. Topic C, reissuance of Albany County campus bonds.
Just Mr. Chairman, members of the board, very quickly, this is just a heads up to let you know that the bonds that were held by the foundation for the construction of the Albany County campus have been called. It gives us an opportunity, or gives the foundation an opportunity to actually look at refinancing those through a reissuance. There is some financial benefit in doing that. But there is also a conversation with the foundation board, and Mr. Bradley, jump in if I'm missing anything here, that this may be a time to actually move that debt off of the foundation's books and actually to the college's books. We would most likely have to utilize our building authority to do that. And so there's a process that has some very purposeful steps in how the foundation would agree to reissue those, but release that debt, how you would agree to assume that debt through the building authority, how the building authority would agree to reissue that and to do that. So I know the foundation will be helping us set up a meeting, I believe with either Trustee Du Bois or Trustee Kaiser, who sit on the foundation board, as well as foundation board executive team, Mr. Bradley, and some folks that can help advise us on specifically what that process is. So just a heads up to think about, one, are you in agreement that if they do reissue these and they're receptive to letting that go off of the foundation's books, do we want to assume it so we can take ownership over those facilities now?
Is there an interest rate benefit?
I believe so, yeah.
And what is the amount?
It's outstanding right now?
Don't remember, do you?
Yeah, do you
I
know?
don't remember, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We can find that out.
And they don't know the current interest rate.
I don't off the top of my head.
It's probably more than 4%.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, and currently we could probably reissue these for
4%.
under 3.
Oh.
I think the
Yeah.
current's just under 4.5.
Yeah. Carol, do you know any of the?
I couldn't hear what you said.
Wondering what the current interest rate is on these bonds and what the savings may be, and the new interest rate. And
I don't remember exactly what he said about the interest rate, but the savings to us would be about $150,000 actually to the foundation.
Wow.
That's net of issuing costs, et cetera. And then it would have the potential to just move that asset out of the foundation, which I don't know if they're real excited about being landowners and landowners.
so we will
So
have
it solve a
folks,
few problems and, okay.
we will have folks that'll be involved in the meeting, and then just know it's the conversation's going on. We'll try to keep you apprised and certainly then bring you in as we get into the more formal process. But it sounds like in general you guys are supportive of us exploring this option. And
Okay, wow, that was a long president's report, Joe. I told you you were gonna get more work as you move down the road here. I will take some public comment on any of the president's reports. I'm sorry I let the CDC people go, but I think that we heard plenty. Oh,
I got to.
yeah, do it.
I really feel uncomfortable talking because my dean's not here, so, I mean, she really should be the person saying something, but I must tell you that we've never seen this, and Archie and I looked at each other, and the sucking sound that you heard was the entire eastern part of the college in the Fine Arts and Humanities Division going, well, told you so, right? All the goodwill that y'all put together as trustees and administrators last fall just went down the tubes. And if you don't put the Fine Arts building as even the 6th priority, I gotta tell you, the disappointment in that division, I don't know that Archie, I could stand up in front of them. Because they don't go to the meetings and they don't see how hard you guys are working. They just go, yeah, it's the board again, and they haven't paid any attention to us. You have taken their dream away from them. And I tell you, this is just, it is so, from a public relations standpoint, this is a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. Now, what I would tell you is that Simple Brown, for example, our architect who did the last proposal, they actually work with communities and colleges and universities to do exactly the kinds of things that you guys were talking about. Where do you get the funding? And they just recently did Parker, Colorado, and if you look at the Denver Post recently, they've been doing some stories about how this is kind of a little community that could, that they, 10 years they have been planning their Fine Arts Center, and it's finally come through fruition. And it's the way they have put it together is exactly the way we're gonna have to do it. Cobble it together with different groups and you know, literally, we're gonna have to say, hey gang, let's put on a show. And if you don't give my division that hope, I can't, this is just one of the worst things I could see. And let us let us do that planning. Let us have a summit where we bring together Tom Bradley and maybe the people from Simple Brown and other people from the community. And let us start doing some footwork for you. I know that you have a lot of things to do. And I didn't know you were here, and I would have had you talk. I'm sorry. I really feel bad, but my VP is here. So, anyway, I'm the little lapdog that's going to be there every time. And really, guys, you know, we've talked about my retirement in my lifetime, and this is getting close. So, that's all I have to say.
And I'm gonna take over and
She'll be the lapdog everything.
Oh, you're next?
No, she's
She
the
said
last.
she's the
next
next
one.
retiring
No.
Bill.
Exactly.
She's going to be the next ankle.
by then.
Okay, I'm gonna think about that, Roz. Let's have a little chat before, when this meeting ends here. Okay, let's go on to board reports. Hopefully they're short and sweet, and we will see. The first board report, finance facilities.
I will make it short and sweet.
Which way do you
Mr.
want to go
Chairman.
with that? Go ahead.
We met on the 12th of March in the morning, and I don't have a copy of our agenda for that meeting with me, but I will tell you that the reports that you see online here are sort of standing items for every meeting. We look at these, and there's nothing material that's changed since the last time we talked about them. But on our agenda, we talked about two things once again. The one is the 1% fund, and this goes back to what we've just been talking about. If you remember, Miles made suggestion that we should be using this 1% fund for things like planning money and so forth, because the 1% fund is subject to renewal, first of all, and we shouldn't be funding continuing operations out of something that's subject to renewal like that. So, on our agenda, I wanted Carol to begin thinking about a plan for how we remove continuing operations from that 1% fund to free up those funds to do these other things, planning and whatnot. And we know that we can't do it in a single year, but we need a plan for how we're going to back out of that. And I would like to see that at some point. And I don't think Ed or maybe Joe could tell me, I don't remember that we saw anything about a plan by the end of the meeting about how we were going to do that. And there really wasn't any plan for producing a plan. So we'll just keep with that. We also talk about process, and one of the things in the budget process that I would hope would happen, that has never happened here as far as I know, is that the budget process should be able to occasionally move money from one area of the college to another as needs change. And I don't see anything right now in our process that would ever enable us to do that. It's opaque to me still, and I think it's opaque to everyone else on campus. And we just don't see a process there that would enable you to take money and say, here's a new need, here's an old need that is winding down, let's take that money and those resources and move it over here. So I want to begin to see a plan for that, and I think some of that is the board's responsibility, and we talked about that in the last meeting. So those are the things we talked about in our meeting. Nothing resolved, but we will keep pursuing those issues until we do get something resolved. End of report.
Okay, and I have a couple of questions. Clarify me, what is this 1% fund?
The 1% is a mill levy.
Okay,
1 mil.
so
It's
the 1 mil.
1%,
okay.
sorry, 1 mil levy. It's a
Okay.
1 mil fund, and it's subject to renewal, and I don't know on what time period it's subject to renewal.
2 years.
2 years.
Okay, but that's one that Miles suggested we should be using for other uses. I agree.
And does that have to be voted on by the voters?
No, the board.
Oh, the board, oh, just, all right, okay. So, smells like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, but that's with this board.
Correct.
You know, boards change.
Correct, okay.
So,
I understand that. How much money does that raise?
well, maybe 950,000
Okay.
or somewhere in that neighborhood. That brings up another interesting point. We are talking about backing out of funding continuing operations with that, and yet, when we looked at an aggregate of new revenues here, there was $75,000 estimated to come from increased valuation in that 1 mil, and it was being thrown into the pot to apply to continuing operations. So I don't understand why we did that if we're trying to step back out of this. I think that $75,000 should be removed from consideration. It should be put in a fund to do this planning. So that's, I don't know how the rest of the board may feel about that,
Okay.
but it seemed to be at cross purposes with what we're trying to do. Would you agree, Ed?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Ed, can
Vaguely,
you remember
yes.
back to the 12th of March?
You're asking me to go too far back. Yes, we talked quite a bit about trying to find money out of the 1 mil and move it into the studies.
Okay.
And the problem was, I think, was discussed, difficulty in taking money away currently that we have. How do you backfill that, or do you have the money that would support it? I believe that was some of the discussion at that point. And I was hoping there'd be more there that we could move, not just the 75,000,
Yeah.
but at least a couple 100,000. But it doesn't look like that's that viable. At least it didn't look that way to me at that point.
And Mr. Chairman, Trustees Kilty and Mosier, a couple of things. First, you'll get answers and be able to have this conversation in much greater depth when we have the study session on the proposed FY13 budget on the first week of April. First week of April, is that correct? So you'll get at some of that, and in many ways we are working to and will continue to work to meet that interest to not have base going ongoing commitments associated with the 1 mil funds. We've made some of that shift in this proposed budget, and we'll continue to work that way and to do that. In many ways, part of it is just accounting, because it yields $1 million every year. I can show you right now that we have well over $1 million of one-time operating expenses that are bound by the fiscal year. So it is a matter of accounting, and that simply takes time as we start to shift some of those things over. You as a board, though, using that for non-base building activities, non-base building commitments, those types of things, I think we can move to, and we can do that. And if you want a specific plan that shows what we to do, I'm sure we can get proposals to that. If you want us to utilize that $1 million for planning purposes or facility purposes or for something more specific, though, it would be helpful to have guidance from you as a board. What do you want us to do with that? So just so you know, we will work towards your direction. But setting $1 million aside for planning is one thing, setting it aside for non-base commitments is another thing. And so some clarity in your guidance on what you'd like us to do would also be helpful with that. In regards to the other comment, we will show you, or I hope to show you, well, it's not quite the mechanism that you may be after, Dr. Kilty, that there indeed is considerable reallocation in this budget. We anticipate that there will be, I know I should never throw out numbers, Carol, so don't throw them at me, but
I got it right here.
in new state funding, 1.6 million. In state funding and tuition increases, roughly. Better yet, tell me the amount that we are reallocating through internal reallocation.
938,312.
312. So we are starting just through that to saying we are stop doing some things and redoing other things. Now, and I believe, and I don't want to speak for Trustee Kilty though, it's also a matter of looking at what types of programs, services, and activities that you are still committing to that are ongoing. How do we look at getting out of that business and into the new business, and what's the mechanism for doing that? And I'm guessing that's one of the areas you're going through. And I can tell you we have to do that through program, both co-curricular and academic, evaluation. We have to look at exigency opportunities for programs that have lost their service, so we have to know which ones have. We have to know which the directions are. And I can tell you, I will push you and ask you to consider there are some things we may have to stop doing and stop investing in. And it's hard because you will hear emotional appeals from all over the campus and the community about the things we need to do, but we simply can't accomplish all of the things that you want, the community wants, and the campus wants without some prioritization and direction. And so I will get us there, Kevin. I will find a way to do that with the process. We will continue to try to reallocate. The better direction and clarity and that you can give us will help us do that in a more expeditious way.
Okay. I guess we'll find out a lot more at the budget meeting. Okay. College communications and relations. Bill and or Carol.
Well, I will just start by saying that John Kaiser and I did attend the foundation board meeting last Thursday, and I thought I was at a regular trustee meeting because it lasted forever. But anyway, there certainly is an effort, I know, on the part of all the people that are on that foundation board to do what you have proposed, Greg, that there be a greater integration between the two boards as far as working together. It's all those things that, those esoteric things that we've talked about that we need to do, and I know there is an effort on their part to want to be a part. Wouldn't you agree with me, John, that that's definitely the plan? And John, you couldn't help but feel that at the meeting, I know. And so I know it's going to be a lot better.
Good, that's great. Okay.
Carol may have something more to add from the student.
I do. I'm sorry I didn't make that meeting. I was sick that night. I went to an ASG meeting. I was very impressed with the way Alex runs her meeting. She did a great job. Very diverse group of students. I hope they'll ask me to come back each month, Alex. And they spoke to me about their concerns, and I spoke to Joe, and he is very aware of the students' concerns. Next is we had our dinner tonight, and I was really happy with the number of people that could come. The faculty were there. But what I wanted to say is, if I can remember this, is how are we doing now? That's what I wanted to say to everyone. How are we as trustees doing now? But I feel bad about saying that because of Roz and her concerns about the Fine Arts Building. So, Roz, we will stay in touch and we'll try to make things happen. It might take a while and probably won't happen before 5 years unless we come up with some magic like Parker. So I think that's about all I have. Thank you.
Alex, I'd like to come to your meetings too. Will you let me know when they are? Is it a regular time?
Yeah, it's every Tuesday at 12:15.
Every Tuesday at
12:15.
Thank you.
And where, Alex, please tell Bill?
It's in the CCC 178, the big room that you guys always meet in, next to the dining hall.
Down by the food service.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the Communications and Relations Committee? Okay, and the last one, Governance Committee, John?
I hear
And I guess Brenda's still.
Yeah, I hear Brenda rustling on the phone. She must have turned her mute off. Joe and Brenda and I met week before, I believe it was, and as you'll see in the approval items, we are going to go ahead and extend the contract with the College Brain Trust. We checked it out with everyone that needed to be asked, and their contract is extendable, and we're going to work with both George Boggs and Dr. Cindra Smith through the College Brain Trust. And as you saw, we're looking at a spring and fall of this year retreat, and then we will also, that's with George and Cindra, and then in between those two, we will meet as a board and hash out our policies, and then filter them through George and Cindra. That sound accurate, Brenda?
Yeah, and that's exactly right, John. And I have some dates that we need to discuss too. That, I talked to George this afternoon, and when John's done with his part of the report, I'd like to throw some dates out for the board.
Well, I'm finished. Go ahead, Brenda.
I talked to George, and we initially were talking about having the first meeting in April, but George and Cindra's calendar has now become plumb full for April. So George wanted us to look at May. A couple of dates that he threw out are Saturday, May 12th, and Saturday, May 19th. We need to have at least 6 hours for the meeting. That's why he and I discussed Saturdays. He would like to hold it one day so that he and Cindra don't have to stay an extended amount of time or leave for a few days and then come back. So please look at your calendars for Saturday, May 12th and Saturday, May 19th. George said he was also available, he and Cindra were also available on Friday, May 11th and Friday, May 18th. That's the Friday before the 2 Saturday dates I gave you. If we as a board, those of us who work, want to take the day off and do it on a Friday, we could do that as well. What George wants to discuss, or I should say George and Cindra, what we need to discuss during that 6 hours are the roles of the president and the roles of the board members. What the board does not like about the policy governance model, he said that's very insightful as to what we want if we first talk about what we are not satisfied with in policy governance. We need to talk about what decisions we want the president to make, what decisions we want the board to make, the kind of policy structure we want to have, the goals for the board, and the goals for the president. He said it's at least a 6-hour discussion. So I told him that we would talk about dates this evening and I would send him an email tomorrow. I suggest we pick a date because he and Cindra's calendars fill up very quickly.
I will not be in town on the 19th.
May 19th?
I have a PhD student giving a defense on the 18th.
Okay. We ever look at my calendar?
I was gonna do a graduation on the 12th, but I don't have to.
Where's graduation?
Salina, Kansas.
Brenda, is that gonna be during the day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The 12th and the 19th are Saturdays.
Right.
I got a grandson.
The 11th is a Friday, the 12th is a Saturday, the 18th is a night, is a Friday, the 19th is a Saturday, but it sounds like the 19th and the 18th are out already, is that right?
That one student.
Yeah, but the 11th and the 12th are fine with me.
Okay.
Okay, I got 12th.
11th
You around the 12th, Bill?
I'm okay on any day,
Okay.
so
And we can go have a little scotch afterwards.
I know
Before.
Carol has an activity on the night of the 12th, but you'd be
I do.
okay in the day, wouldn't you?
Okay, so I got 112, I got a 12, I got a 12.
I prefer 11.
I
but
cannot
Friday's
do
a
it
bad
on, I
day.
cannot
Okay,
do it on
12's okay.
a weekday.
Or the
12th's
19th
okay
then.
with me.
12th?
Sure.
Okay. 12th.
Okay, it looks like a 12th is a date.
Saturday the 12th.
Okay,
My
good.
niece will be
And
back.
Greg,
Yes, ma'am.
my husband and I
That's
were
my
planning
son.
on having the open house for our new house the night of the 12th, so you can have your scotch there.
Oh, okay. Beautiful.
Oh, that's right.
An extra room that he can stay over.
I'll have a driver. Okay,
Does the 12th sound good for everybody?
That's it.
Sure.
I've got a commitment.
Excellent. May 12th it is.
Okay.
And what time would you like to start? About 8 in the morning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, from 8 to, let's see, 8.
8:30?
I was gonna say 7.
Aren't you going to breakfast tomorrow?
Yeah, don't remind me of that.
So 8:30 to 2:30?
Sure.
That'd be fine. Just set her up.
9 to 3? 8:30, I'd rather 8:30, 2:30.
Yep.
That's fine.
That's fine.
We could do 8 o'clock as well.
Okay.
Backing down.
2?
8 to 2, Brenda.
8 to 2.
Let's go
I
8
think
to
your
2.
neighbor's a
Lock it in.
bad influence
All right.
on you.
All right,
He
that's,
doesn't do
that's
mornings
what I
either.
needed from the group. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Okay.
So, does that
Unless he
work
has
for you
something
too?
to shoot.
It does,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Brenda, do you plan to have that on campus?
Oh, yeah.
6:30.
Yes, it would probably be in the boardroom.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait for the boardroom and food.
Okay, is that the end of the governance committee report?
Yes.
Brenda?
And we're going to New York next week.
Okay,
So
good.
John and I are going to New York next week, so we'll have lots of information for you at the next meeting.
Great. Okay, any questions of the governance committee? None? I'm afraid to do this, but anybody want to give public comment on our committee reports? Okay, we'll move on. Okay, we've got several approval items. Some that we've talked about, so hopefully they'll be short. Yes, Joe, I'm gonna throw over legal services request for proposal.
Mr. Chairman, this is just asking you to take formal action to set us in motion to issue a request for proposal for legal services for the college. Now, please note that change in words, that this would not be legal services simply for the Board of Trustees, but for the college, which of course encompasses the Board of Trustees and the campus as well. The details of exactly how that relationship would work out, I'm sure would come as part of the RFP process, so it's just getting you to take formal action to tell us, let's go ahead and compete that.
Yes, sir.
We discussed this last year
Yes.
about this time and decided that
We need
for
to-
board council, we were gonna have to go out on bid anyway.
Right.
This is just a little extension of that.
Yes.
I say we.
So I'm looking for a motion.
I move.
Second.
Alright.
Question.
Kevin, you're out.
I third
Okay. Put that one in the minutes. Kevin thirded that one.
So do I have a moved and a second?
Yes.
Thank you.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Ed, thirded by Kevin. Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor to approve the issuance of RFP to retain legal services. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, we will take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Please proceed with that. Okay, item B, approval of CBT College Brain Trust amended
Isn't
contract.
that what we just said we're gonna do on the 12th?
Well, we set
Yes.
we set the date up.
I move approval of the expense.
Second.
Okay, then
There
I
you
got a
go.
second. Joe, just give us a quick few sentences on what it means.
Mr. Chairman, the proposal is there before you. We are essentially amending the contract that you have with College Brain Trust to incorporate assistance with this governance shift that you have. The details are included in that amendment and in the staff recommendation on the agenda.
Okay, any we got a second and a.
We have a
Okay,
second.
We got that all done.
Do we have a
all right?
second?
Yeah, John seconded it. Okay, any discussion?
My only question on this was why this didn't need to go out for bid, and I understand now that this is it was an extendable contract in the first place. Is the $7,500 for each workshop and the $234 for every hour of reading and reviewing, is this just open-ended now? Do we have a not to exceed amount or anything?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Kilty, no, not at this point. We anticipate in our conversation 2 workshops, so that is essentially the point of it there, and I believe it's time bound by those workshops occurring and this process wrapping up, I think, at the end of 2012. The actual hourly charge for assistance on consultation as we develop the policies between those workshops is open-ended. It's as we need it and as we engage them. But I believe the amendment, I did print out the copy, actually is time-bound.
I did.
Carol, that's the proposal.
This is the proposal.
Yeah, that's just.
The amendment is online.
Do it right here. But I believe the intent is, we extend it to June 30th, 2013, and at that point it would be concluded. I anticipate that our work with them, I hope our work with them will be done actually by the end of the calendar year.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the number of hours of reading, reviewing, and editing. It better be pretty important reading, reviewing, and editing for $234 an hour.
Agreed?
It should be pretty limited, so.
What we anticipated was that, as I said in our committee report, was the board will meet separately from them and hash out, and then we will ask them to review what we've done as far as governance practices. And our argument, we argued about the 234, and that's what we pay Lance plus $16.
No, it's $2.34.
There's a decimal point missing.
Yeah. There's a decimal in there.
He claims that, but we'll see what his RFP says.
I guess to address that is, we ought to have a feel at the end of this first workshop, what kind of assistance we'll need, and you just document the doggone thing and say, Joe, don't go over it.
Okay.
So,
I will not rush to incur those charges.
Right.
Or the scrutiny of the board in encouraging them.
okay. Any other discussion? Discussion, if not, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Was that
This is
an aye
unanimously.
or
It was-
Okay, and then,
You button, right?
item C, approval of recommendation for award of a search firm contract. Joe?
And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you can engage in this conversation and provide what you will, but essentially this is a follow-up to our conversation regarding restructuring and moving on some of the recommendations from the College Brain Trust organizational assessment. We will have two vacancies. There are two searches going on here in the near future, one for Vice President of Academic Affairs, one for Vice President of Student Services. I told you I would like to engage the services of a search firm to seek these out and to do it right. We have issued an RFP, solicited those. We had 7 responses. Committee has reviewed and essentially left it in my lap to between 2. And I'm looking for your feedback, 1, on the 2, and then 2, essentially your approval to allow me to enter into an agreement with these search firms to help facilitate the process. So the 2 firms that rose to the top and essentially are on par include Cizik and Associates and then the Poly Group. And let me just quickly tell you the pros and cons, and then would love to hear your thoughts as much as you care to share at this late hour. Cizik Associates came in slightly more affordable at 25% of the first year salary of these positions. Certainly Marty Cizik and her staff have intimate knowledge of the campus and where we've been and what they've gone on, and that will go a long ways in helping these processes. I think she has the trust of the campus, the trust of the board for doing what she has, and so there is a compelling reason to consider their application. 2 things that I question or I worry about, maybe worry is not the right word, but 2 things that come into my mind. 1, having been on the receiving end of that organization, I heard concerns from my references just about the thoroughness and the reference checking process and how they developed that report. I have not seen a report that you hopefully got from her based on those reference checks or how thorough it was. But as I said, on my end, the reception of the references that were checked on my end was not necessarily favorable to that process. The other one that I don't know, and I guess the question that I have and why I really want to hear your thoughts are how well and what her processes or what their processes are to actually identify potential candidates. And candidates who may not truly be looking or that are out there. How connected are they into the network of community colleges and specifically at the level of which we'll be recruiting and advising from? I don't know what her proposal was to you for the presidential search or how she went about and did that, but it is one of the things that I have to ask. I know prior to this search and prior to interim President Earl contacting me, which is how I became a part of the process, I had never heard of Cizik. So I think the world of her. She's a great gal. It seems like very well respected in the circle she is, but those were 2 questions that came up. Poly Group is a search firm that is well known in the community college world. They specialize in sub-executive level searches, vice presidency type searches, and have a wonderful track record of doing that. I have also been in the search where they have conducted reference checks, and I can tell you that in the industry, their reference checking process is bar none the best in what they do and the extent they do it in the report that they give. They are well connected and have a large network within the community college world. They do that. Their proposal is more expensive. It's $43,700 per position, and they do not have the privilege of knowing this campus or having the in-depth nature of the institution. So there are their pluses and minuses. I hope that you will entrust me to make the decision which firm to ultimately go with, but I want your counsel and advice and thoughts on this, and maybe you can put to rest any of the concerns I may have with your experience with Cizik and Associates and help guide that. And then ultimately, I would like your proposal to allow me to enter into that and not to spend more than $100,000 on both of these searches. I can tell you we have requested funding for this as part of the one-time expenditures for the budget coming up. We could move on it by using fund balance and restoring fund balance to span the fiscal years as we go forward with it as well. But I'll stop there and would love to hear your thoughts and comments.
Okay, anybody? Yeah, Kevin.
Well, this was a process that I sort of suggested independently, so there's no way I would trash this particular process using a professional search firm here. With regard to the search firms, I know nothing about the Poly Group at all, but I can say that nothing succeeds like success, and I think we had a very successful search for president. And I think Marty Sizik was a very important part of that. I don't know that it would have gone as well without her. And the reason is, she seems to know personally an enormous number of people who she can call upon for advice, who then can turn around and suggest people to her. And that sort of a network is very valuable. With regard to her process of checking references and so forth, I really didn't have too many doubts about it myself. I think Marty is no nonsense, organized, I think thorough. I mean, I just can't say enough good things about her. So I would feel very comfortable with her. But Joe, if it comes down to you deciding that the Poly Group is just exactly what you want, why, we'll take the extra $30,000 out of your salary.
How often do I get to negotiate my contract?
Once every 5 years.
Strike that from the minute.
Okay. Yes, Carol, go ahead.
Okay, I agree with Kevin. I put full trust in Marty Sizik. I'm a little worried about what happened at your end with her vetting you. I think we did see some of that information, and I think I talked to you about it at one time, some of the comments that were made there. What I'd like to do is make a motion that we put this decision in your hands, knowing both firms, and to not spend more than $100,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, that's exactly what the motion says, not exact same words. But
Okay.
yes, sir.
I kind of concur with Joe. You have to remember that Marty didn't do any of the search. We as a board did the search ourselves, and she just did the research. And when he says that her potential pool is limited, you know, that raises a flag or two. And I concur with Carol as far as her motion, but I just wanted to throw that out, that she really didn't do any of the search, or limited amount of the search. So the search, we did our publication, etc., long before she even was on board. So I'll go with Carol's motion as far as
Okay.
leaving it up to Joe.
Did
but
we
I-
have it? We have a motion
Second.
and a second,
Yeah.
okay. Any other discussion?
Joe.
Basically what we're doing is we're saying, Joe, you got $100,000 limit, get who you think you need, make sure that they're good.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
I really concur with this motion and would support it from the standpoint that, just as with getting Joe, I think it's critical that we get executives that can be helpful to this institution, and I think it's worth the dollars on the front end to pay for that and get those folks here. We're not in a position to stumble around and wait a long time. I think we need to do this and do it well.
Any other discussion? Okay, if not, let's vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed?
Sorry, that was just a time lag. That's what you get for being in Jackson. Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, thank you. Okay, any public comment on our approval items? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Number 7, monitoring performance of the president. In statement number 5, LCCC programs are recognized as exemplary. Marlene.
Mr. Chairman, this is the same report that came forward at the study session.
Correct.
There were two items that trustee Kelty brought forward, and those are in the core ability assessment. The first is at the top of page 12. That included the exit assessment results. And on the bottom of page 3 are the faculty projections and comparisons with student study habits.
I move we
Any
approve the
questions?
monitoring report.
Okay, got a motion on the floor
We hashed
To
it
approve?
out pretty good.
to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a second? Discussion? Yes, ma'am.
One question,
Go ahead.
on page 10, and maybe this was answered the last time we looked at this, but under faculty less than a bachelor's degree, who is that one person, please? Or what department are they in?
Trustee Merrill, when we hire faculty in some of the career and technical areas,
Right.
they don't necessarily, it's more important that they have the certifications and the experience
Okay.
than it is that they have the degrees. So we
Thank
look
you.
for the,
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
so that one would be in the career and technical area.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
I'm going to be cranky at this
Go ahead.
point this evening.
What a surprise.
It's not 10 o'clock, you cannot be cranky.
This is a report that I had issues with last year because there was nothing in it that told me that LCCC programs are exemplary. And I made suggestion that maybe you could go look at the SESI survey and some things like that, but I made lots of other suggestions too, none of which looks like anybody looked at really. I don't see how you can describe a program as exemplary unless you talk about the people who run the program, or that our programs in general are exemplary unless you can talk about how well we attract applicants to a pool and how well we choose applicants from that pool when we have it put together. How do students actually grow while they're here? So you need some sort of baseline surveys or tests or something like that, and then something later on. And how well our students do in the job market once they leave, and just a lot of other things that go along with what would be an exemplary program. So once again, I don't think that this report tells me all that much about LCCC programs being exemplary, and so I intend to vote against it, even though I seconded it.
You did second it, so you can vote against
Well,
it.
that's just to move the meeting along, Greg.
That's fine. Absolutely fine. Any other comments? Okay, if not, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so we got a 6 to 1.
Odds I like.
Okay, good. Okay. Thanks, Marlene. Okay, any public comment on the monitoring report outside of Kevin Kilty's comment? Okay, number 8, just a few items for information only. We've got a contract and procurement report you had a chance to look at, some summaries of some study sessions, etc. I have a couple of pieces of correspondence, and they're short, so I'm going to read it to you. To Laramie County Community College, I, Christopher DeMartin, would like to thank you for your help with my Eagle Scout project. I'll skip the middle. The support that Laramie County Community College provides to the Boy Scouts and the community is a pillar in the community. Again, please accept my sincere thanks to Laramie County Community College for your support and generosity. Chris DeMartin, who's probably an Eagle Scout by now, so that's great. Thank you. One other letter that I have comes from the Cheyenne Fire and Rescue, City of Cheyenne. It's from James A. Martin, who's the fire chief here. Dear President Schaefer, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you and your facilities and events office staff for their exceptional hospitality during the roundup of your Knowledge Conference. The conference was extremely successful due to Melissa Gallant and her staff. Is Melissa? who went above and beyond to accommodate our organization and far exceeded our expectations. The facilities and events office staff are an enormous asset to LCCC and our community. Please convey our gratitude to your staff for the outstanding services. We couldn't have done it without them. Thank you sincerely, James Martin, Fire Chief. So another very nice letter. So
Vicky, you
appreciate
did
that.
send those to us, didn't you?
Yes,
These
they
let-
were
They sent these letters to
Oh, okay.
us by email,
Oh, great. Okay.
so I did have a chance to read them earlier.
Good, okay, well, I didn't see them, so I would read them. And then lastly, I just have my sheet, and again, the folks that won those 2 awards was a great deal. So, we really do appreciate that. Okay, a variety of next meetings and events. Our next study session is on April 4th.
Yes.
I believe the main agenda topic is gonna be the budget. And I think we had one other one. Oh, you're gonna give us an update on, facilities deal. Okay. And we will restrict it to that, nothing else. Right, Carol? Then our next, board meeting, business meeting will be April 18th. And so on, just a reminder, commencement is Saturday, May 5th. So we will be probably getting directions, et cetera,
Where will that be?
on that,
Civic Center.
Civic Center.
We rotate between Civic Center and Storytime.
Just depends on what's available.
Okay, one last shot for any public comment. Anything you'd like to address to the board, open up to the public? If not, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you. See you.
See you, cousin.
Did it?
Three on down.
Dawned on